Hi everyone, Luke here from Weekend Tour Pros. You're joining me again today as we put two irons head to head against each other to help you work out which iron is the right one for you. Today we're taking the brand new for 2024 Ping i530 and putting it up against the Ping i230 that's been out for a couple of years now and is incredibly popular to work out which one of these sort of players distance irons is the right one for you. Now I'm Luke, I'm an average swing speed golfer with an 11 handicap and I therefore think I'm a really good test case for both of these irons. So let's get stuck in, talk you through the differences, hit some shots with both of them and check out all of that data. So before we start hitting shots, I just want to tell you a little bit about the similarities and the differences between these two irons, starting with the lofts, the lie angles, the offsets and the bounces. Now the i230 and the i530 follow a very similar pattern in terms of their lofts. It's just a case that the i230 is one club weaker than the i530. So if you're looking for a little bit more distance, the 7-iron loft on the i530 is stronger and probably going to give you that little bit more distance versus a bit more control, spin, workability from that i230 iron. However, I would caveat that by saying that Ping do offer retro loft specs and power loft specs, and I'll put them both on screen for you now. And what you'll be able to see here is if you take the power lofted spec in the i230 and compare it to the retro lofted spec in the i530, you can get almost identical lofts through the set with both of these irons, and therefore I do think it's about picking the right head shape and then the right loft option for you to make sure you get the perfect Ping package in both of these irons. In terms of the actual looks of the irons, at the i530 when it's looking down at address, it's definitely got a slightly thicker top line, and that is a little bit more confidence inspiring, particularly if you're the golfer that started with a game improvement iron and you're now graduating to one of these irons. I think the i530 will still give you that thickness of top line that inspires a little bit of confidence, while the i230 is definitely going to be more for the golfer that maybe has traditionally played a bladed golf club and is now working up for a little bit more forgiveness, a little bit more help. I definitely think you'll prefer that slightly thinner top line of the i230. Both these irons do have the bottom line filled in with paint, which just helps you to line up that club perpendicular to your target. It's a great little feature that I love on so many of the irons. When we flip both irons over, we can see there is a little bit of an increased thickness in the sole design of the i530, exactly the same as that top line. Again, a little bit more forgiveness, a little bit more confidence inspiring than the more sleeker profile of that i230. But again, both are very, very similar. The back of the golf clubs, you can see the badge detail on the i230 where it is a cavity backed iron versus the forged iron of the i530, but both irons overall just look really cool at the back and the profile of both of them is really, really nice. I really couldn't pick between the two of them. I'd be happy with either of these in my bag. I like traditional looking golf irons and these are very traditional looking, really, really sexy Ping irons. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to hit a batch of shots with both of these irons. We'll talk you through some of the TrackMan data and we'll end with a side-by-side comparison and try and help you work out which of these irons is the right one for you. First shot with the i530. Now, if you've watched my review of these irons on my channel already, you'll know that I absolutely loved them. The only criticism I had is I felt like the spin was a little bit low, so really keen to see if that's the same today as well. First one out the gate, really high launching, lovely little bit of descent angle, tiny bit right of maybe where I was aiming. Yeah, so a tiny bit low on the face in terms of my strike location there. Just call it a little bit bottom groovy. But what we've seen there is 77 mile an hour club head speed, so I will warm up into these in a minute. I'm normally around 78 to 80. 108 of ball speeds, carrying at 154, a really good 7-iron number for me. Totaling at 169, spinning at 4.2, which again is a little bit more than I saw last time. Launching at 16.6, peak height of 66 feet and land angle of 39. Again, probably because I've called it a little bit thin, not the best numbers I'm going to get out of this and not probably representative of how good they can be, but probably do represent the forgiveness of this iron that it's still got out there, 154 off a strike that was a fraction thin. That was a much better strike. Absolutely beautiful golf shot that. There we go, that's what I was expecting to see out of these irons. 112 of ball speed, carrying at 165, totaling at 177, spinning again at 4238, that's really interesting, very similar spin rates, 2 out of 2, launching at 18, that peak height 81 feet, that's exactly what I would expect to see out of these irons, high 70s, low 80 feet, and that descent angle of 43 degrees or 42.6, right in the wheelhouse of what I would expect. That's probably the best representation of these numbers that we're going to get. Hopefully I can hit a few more like that to show you how consistent they are, but that's exactly what I was expecting to see in terms of numbers. And if I can just get that strike up the face a couple more millimeters, then we'll definitely get even more out of it. just hit my slight pull draw. Got the strike slightly up the face, ever so slightly there. And what we've seen again, I've hit a little bit of a pull draw, 113 of ball speed, 166 of carry, again, probably because of that slight pull draw, totaling 182. The spin at 3763 is probably the lower spin that I was seeing when I did my full test. Peak height of 70 feet, launch and landing a little bit lower because of that pull draw. We would not expect to see them as high as they would be if we hit it a little bit straighter. That's a lovely golf shot. Again, just a baby draw that time. I think I've struck that one a little bit better. Yeah, just a fraction toe, a little bit higher up on the face that time. What we've got there is another beautiful long carry, 114 of ball speed, carrying at 169, spinning at 3775, launching at 16.7, peak height 74 feet, land angle 39. They're starting to do exactly what they did in my test. Spin rate does feel low, and that's why we're getting some incredible distance out of them, but we still do get a nice strong ball flight, and that's what I would expect to see out of this player's distance iron. I think that's the best one. Yeah, that's so high. That's everything good about this golf club. Wow, look at that one. That's absolutely middled. 115.6 of ball speed, carrying at 173. Like, if I was to get my own 7-iron out on TrackMan right now, which is a Mizuno JPX 923, we would see that I'd probably carry it about 155 on a good day like today. This is carrying at 153. The reason for that is that spin at 3918 is definitely on the lower end, but that one there launched at 18.3, peak height of 87 feet, and land angle of 43 degrees. That's a really nice golf shot. Really nice golf shot, and just demonstrates how much distance is in these irons. Again, it just launches so high, this thing, for how strong that loft is. We've seen that again. Really interesting. It's the first time I've been on TrackMan filming for about a month, and I'm not getting the toe strikes, so the changes I've been making to my swing have been good. I was really out the toe the last few times I've been filming, but I'm just a little bit on the thinner side today. So we've got 112 of ball speed there, carrying at 163. Spin again, 4159. As soon as we get that thin one, it does jump up around that 42 every single time. Launch angle of 16.8. Peak height of 72.5 feet, land angle at 40 degrees. Unfortunately, just left the face wide open there and pushed it down the left-hand side. It's a great strike, unfortunately. Just like I say, the direction wasn't very good. Interesting there, ball speed of 109. The strike location, as you can see, is great. Carrying at 159, spinning at 4,000. So again, that's with a bit of a block out to the left-hand side. Launching at 19.6, peak height 81 feet, land angle 43.1. Just a high draw. Unfortunately, probably just turned it over a little bit too much, but I think that's going to be a good set of numbers to finish on. It's absolutely huge. 116 of ball speed, because I've turned it over, 174 of carry, nearly 190 of total. Like, I just don't ever hit a 7-iron that long. But the spin 3550, launching at 18.2, peak height of 81 feet, land angle of 41. So I'm going to swap over to the i230 now. I think we've demonstrated everything I wanted to with the i530. It's incredibly long. It's incredibly forgiving, particularly off some of the strikes you've seen me hit today, but it does have that fraction low spin, and maybe that's my one concern with this iron, second time round of hitting it. I'm keen to see what happens here. My expectation is we're not going to see any of the sort of distances that we've just seen with that i530. I'll be shocked if we get even anything that's as long or longer than my own 7-iron. So like anything around high 140s, low 150s would be good, but expecting to see some real big jump ups in spin on equal strikes. That is so high and so looping in that ball flight. Much difference in terms of that trajectory. Again, we are talking about 4 degrees of difference in loft, but yeah, massive change in that ball flight straight away. Carry at 148 yards, totaling at 156 off of 106 of ball speed. You'll see that club head speeds are very similar. Spin rates of 5493. Launching has gone up as well, like that spin. Peak height has stayed the same, but that land angle has jumped up. So straight away, we're gaining a load of control, but at the expense of distance. And as you can see, slightly low on the face, so hopefully we'll hit one a little bit higher, but it was very, very middled. I can't believe how high that's going. The launch angle on that one is absolutely ridiculous. 108 of ball speed. You can see here the strike was a little bit better, fraction towards the toe, but a bit higher up the face. Therefore, we got that bit more carry at 151.5, a very similar spin rate, 5,200. Look at that launch angle, 22.9 degrees of launch on a 33-degree lofted 7-iron, peak height of 97 feet. I just never hit a 7-iron that high. Again, it's closer to an 8-iron of my own set. Land angle at 49.1. This thing is going to stop quickly. TrackMan always exaggerates rollout. Put that on a golf course around me now, and that is stopping quickly. You are getting control with this iron, so much so. Again, just so high. Look at that, 108 of ball speeds, carrying at 149, totaling at 155, spin at 5873 there, even more spin that time. So we've got to remember, we were at 3/8s and 3/9s with some of the shots with the i530, so 2,000 revs of more spin. That launch angle is a 2 or 3 degrees higher at 21.9. Peak height of 94.5 feet is so high. Land angle at 49.3 degrees. Again, they are numbers, I think if you gave me my pitching wedge now and asked me to hit it, those launch heights and land angles are very similar to the numbers I would expect to see out of that. But I'm getting that out of an iron that's going 30, 35 yards longer. It's just so good. The ball flight's super impressive. But look at that one there. I've absolutely got the most club head speed out of it, 80.6, probably my fastest one so far. We've nearly touched 110 with the ball speed. We've carried at 155, our longest one with this club, and as long as anything you'll see me hit on TrackMan with my own 7-iron, which is around 31 degrees of loft. We've still got 5134 of spin. We've still got that incredibly strong launch angle. The peak height, like I'm always talking about getting around at 80 feet is great for me with a 7-iron. 98 feet of peak height, like if you're someone who needs to hit the ball higher in the air, these will help. And that land angle of 49 degrees, like these are going to stop so quickly on any green. Also, another thing with ping irons, typically ping irons feel, particularly when I've tested a lot of game improvement irons, they have felt quite firm off of the face compared to other irons that I test. Not noticing that here at all. The ProView one is not this, it's not the softest golf ball, it's not the firmest golf ball in the world, but I am really enjoying how they feel off of the face, and I think anyone who's looking for something that isn't super soft but isn't super firm, that kind of midpoint of feel, I think you'll get that here as well. There's definitely enough feedback, especially as I'm hitting the odd one out the toe, I can feel that, and the feeling out the middle is great with both of these irons. So there's no real difference for me there. The stainless steel versus the forged face, I'm not noticing a lot of difference myself. Caught that a fraction heavy, so it might be higher up on the face in terms of strike, but we might have lost a little bit of ball speed. That's super impressive, really impressive from the i230. Again, maybe because I've struck it still quite central, we've still got 107 of ball speed. You can see I'm warming up a little bit because my club head speed's a little bit faster with this batch of shots. Carrying at 153, spin at 4.8, which again, for something that's a little bit heavy, that's the sort of number I'd like to see it drop down to rather than those low 3000s we saw with the i530. But that launch, that height, that land angle, still incredibly strong. Well, that's not going to be the last one to finish. I've caught it thin, quite thin, so I'm really keen to see what happens there. That's really interesting, again, because I definitely had a few of them with the i530, but look at the thin strike with the i230. We still got 107 of ball speed, we still carried at 147, spin at 5831, 17.8 of launch, 74 feet of peak height. So again, yes, that's the lowest we've seen, but it's still impressive at 43 degree of land angle. Just a slight push out to the left-hand side, but it might be a really nice set of numbers to finish on. It's definitely a fast swing speed. Yeah, a really nice one to finish on. 108 of ball speed, 149 of carry, spinning at 5818, launching again at 22 degrees, so consistent. Again, that peak height of 96.7 feet, just so high. And land angle nearly past 50 feet there because I just left it out to the left-hand side. Like, that's exactly what these irons do. Right, done hitting shots with the Ping i230. I think we've seen in the base straight away the differences between these two irons. Yes, they're very similar in their construction. Yes, they're very similar in their looks, but they definitely are doing slightly different things for two different types of golfer. Now, what we're going to do is go home and dissect all of that TrackMan data in a little bit more detail, do a real deep dive side-by-side comparison, and hopefully help you to work out which of these irons is the right one for you. Let's do that now. Right, let's put all that TrackMan data side by side and deep dive into the similarities and the differences. Before we do, it's a good time to remind you that the Ping i230 7-iron is much weaker at 33 degrees versus 29 degrees in the Ping i530, which is strong by players' distance standards today. Starting on the left hand side, you'll see that my club head speed was actually 1.4 mile an hour faster with the Ping i230. However, the ball speeds with the Ping i530 were 5.3 mile an hour higher on average, which is a significant jump up in speed and reflects Ping's desire to make the Ping i530 all about maximising distance. This is probably a good point to show you my average strike location with both irons, so you can see that my quality of strike was very similar with both golf clubs, meaning both sets of data are very comparable. So if the Ping i530 is all about maximising distance, the Ping i230 is all about control, and that will become clearer over the next few minutes. Starting with the spin rates, where the Ping i230 delivered 1,400 RPM of additional spin at 5,402 versus 3,956 for the Ping i530. It's worth noting that this is the second time I've tested the Ping i530 and I saw similar spin rates on that first occasion, and both times it's been lower than what I'm used to seeing with other players' distance irons that I've tested, such as the Titleist T200 and Mizuno JPX923 forged. I expect that strong loft is playing some part in those lower spin rates. As you saw and heard in the studio, the ball flights with both these clubs did impress me, however they are drastically different. The Ping i230 launched 3.8 degrees higher, delivered one of the highest peak heights I've ever seen when testing 7 irons at 89 feet versus 77 feet with the Ping i230. Finally, the land angle of 47.4 degrees offers even more control and will help to stop the ball quickly and consistently. Just to bring those ball flights to life for you, you can see from the side-on view a really good illustration of that more penetrating ball flight with the Ping i530 versus the slightly loopier ball flight of the Ping i230. Next, those all-important distances. With the faster ball speeds, reduced spin and flatter ball flight, it's no surprise to see that the Ping i530 delivers super long distance, carrying 165.4 yards versus 149.2 with the Ping i230. However, due to the stronger ball flight and increased spin, the Ping i230 did stop almost 45% quicker at 8.1 yards versus 14.5 yards, once again demonstrating that additional amount of control you get with the Ping i230. Finally, I always like to show you my dispersion circle, and this once again illustrates the amount of front to back and left to right control you get with the Ping i230, but for clarity, the Ping i530 dispersion was also good relative to other players' distance irons that I've tested. Okay, so that leads me nicely into my final thoughts on the Ping i230 and Ping i530 irons. Now, my overriding feeling is that I really enjoyed both of these irons and I'd be absolutely happy to game either of them. They do feel really, really good. They sounded great and the performance that I got out of both irons was really impressive. Now, I was a little bit surprised by how much of a big difference there was between the two irons. You've got the control of the Ping i230 and you've got the distance of the Ping i530. Now, what I would say though is I think there's a deliberate ploy by Ping to do that because they do offer those 3 different loft options, and there is a way to get a little bit more distance out of the i230 by going for that power lofted spec, or gaining a little bit of control out of the i530 by going for that retro lofted spec, and as a result they're trying to cater to a wide variety of golfers with both of these different heads. Now, for me personally, I would recommend for a golfer that's maybe a low single figure player, maybe you need a little bit more forgiveness or you're losing a little bit of speed these days, I think you'll really enjoy that i230. It will give you all of the control that you're used to, but a little bit more forgiveness than something like a blade that you maybe have previously been playing. Well, I think if you're the golfer that was playing a game improvement iron, you're now graduating to a player's distance iron, the Ping i530 will appeal to you. It's got a little bit more forgiveness, that slightly thicker top line I think will inspire a little bit of confidence, and the distances that you'll get out of these irons will be very similar to a game improvement iron, and therefore you won't feel like you're giving up any of that distance that you had from those irons as well. Now, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Do you agree with my recommendations? Are you playing either of these irons? Do you think what I've said is fair? The one thing I would say is I have been a little bit concerned about the spin rate on that i530, but people have commented on my in-depth review of those i530 irons saying that they were getting closer to 5,000 revs of spin out of their 7 iron, and that's a number that makes me feel a lot more comfortable. I'm naturally quite a low spin iron player, but if you are naturally a little bit higher spin than me, I don't think that concern that I've got with the spin would be there for you, so don't be put off by that alone. And if you do like the video, please do hit that thumbs up button. It really does help golfers like you to find my content on YouTube. And if you're not yet subscribed to Weekend Tour Pros, hit that button down below. And if you ring the bell icon, you'll get notified of all my videos as they land on YouTube every single week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.